Welcome back. Oops. End it. Let's do one more because I didn't see the light pop on. Or is that going to screw us up? Okay, we'll have to trim it. We'll just start from now. Okay. Welcome back to I'm Spiritual But. Thank you for joining us here again today on the show where we talk about inclusive spirituality and whether you're religious or not religious, finding your own connection to the divine or higher self, consciousness, and learning to really thrive in the spiritual element of who you are. We've talked for so many years in general in our community and especially during COVID about emotional wellness. And we wanted to really talk more about spiritual wellness, and especially in a global conversation that ties us all together, what we have in common instead of specifically focusing on what drives us apart. So thank you for joining us today. Please do like and subscribe, and that's what helps us keep this content coming to you. Hello, Roger.
Hey, Ann, how are you?
I am so great this morning. I am great. How are you? I'm grateful.
Yes, me too. And one thing I'm grateful for, Ann, is I've been looking at the spectrum of guests we've had on the show so far and the variety of their insights and the different points of light they illuminate for all of us has been so fascinating for me. I love the idea that we're having these conversations and sharing these for the purpose of inspiring and empowering our viewers. But of course, when we do things for others, we are the ones who get to benefit. So I just feel like I personally am growing and stretching and exploring ideas that I hadn't been exposed to before, thanks to some of our guests. And I'm grateful for this show.
Oh, that's amazing. And we really have been so fortunate to have amazing people on here and who have really given a lot to put themselves out there, share what's working for them, share their own life journeys. So a lot of it's very personal sometimes and, kind of puts us in a vulnerable place, but is a real gift for you and I and all the listeners and viewers to understand that we're not alone and that, whenever we are connected to our own spiritual self, we're connecting to all of those who want to be connected in a positive and space of hope and peace and growth, which is just to me really exciting. So,
and on that note, I noticed the parallel between these conversations and some of the writing courses I teach. I tell my aspiring writers that people want the journey. People want to read about the journey, and part of the journey is the struggle. And so what I really appreciate is that people have been so forthcoming in sharing the down times, the difficult times, the challenges that they faced that have led them to be bold and take a spiritual journey. That's part of it. So although we are positive and we do keep the light on all the good, the challenges we face are part of that. And I hope our viewers feel comfortable enough to embrace that and continue to acknowledge that it's okay to have downtimes. It's okay to have doubts. It's okay to face traumas that we don't ever expect, because that's part of the growing process.
And it's the challenges that keep it real. And that's why I love this show, because it's not like we have it all figured out. I don't, you don't, our guests don't, but we're just sharing human to human based on our own spiritual experience. And we're just saying, hey, it's not, when we share our challenges, it's not a complaint. It's not a badge of honor that we've all gone through trials and challenges. It's that we want everyone to know they're not alone. Yes. And so many of us have experienced similar things in many ways, maybe different causes, but we've all had doubt. We've all had discouragement. Many of us have had depression. So sharing and learning from each other is such a gift, an incredible gift. All right. Well, I am super excited to invite our guest, or to introduce rather to you, our guest today, a dear friend and professional compatriot of mine, Kevin McDonald, who is famous for being the voice of Seattle AM 1150, Positive Talk Radio. If you can't think of a better show to listen to, if you're tuning into the news, than Positive Talk Radio, I don't know what there is. Kevin was born and raised in Seattle, Washington. He's a jovial, fun-loving guy, and he has experienced life, let me tell you, in a big way. from being a star athlete to an actor, recognize that, voice actor, recognize that, restaurateur, haven't done that yet, Kevin, transit operator, audio producer, talk show host, creative consultant, motivational leader, and current podcast creator. His radio show, Positive Talk Radio, is designed to uplift your spirit by featuring people who positive motivational guests and creating something that everyone can watch and listen to. And his mission is to declare our freedom from hate, division, and fear, which is beautiful. And I'm so excited to welcome him here to I'm Spiritual But. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, guys. Nice to see you both. Thank you for having me on.
Nice to see you, and so happy to have you here. It's a real treat for me. Let me get my microphone back where it's supposed to be. And since I'm in the presence of the tech guru here, so happy to have you here. And, we didn't have to do a tech check or anything with you, Kevin, because you've got it figured out. You're doing this every day.
Sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. Today I've got 3.
Wow, 3 shows today. Amazing. And they're so wonderful. And I've been on Kevin's shows before and always thoroughly enjoy it. We always have a wonderful time. And when we started this show, I was like, oh, Kevin's on my short list. I definitely would like him to come and join us here on I'm Spiritual But. So Kevin, just to get kickstart us off here, give us maybe a short summary of your own spiritual journey that's really interesting to most of our viewers.
On Thanksgiving 2002, I was with my family and we were having, obviously sitting around having Thanksgiving dinner. And somehow we started talking about, now they're evangelical Christian, and I grew up Lutheran and spent, I was like 10 years perfect attendance in Sunday school. I went to a parochial school, and so I went to church, 2 or 3 times a week and all that. So we started talking about life and life after death and what happens when we die and stuff. And somehow it just didn't resonate with me. It was like, okay, so what do we do when we cross over, and why are we here? What is our purpose in life? And nobody could come up with a satisfactory answer for me. So my wife and I left and we went to a friend's house after that. And it was on my mind because it was like, gosh, why am I here? What am I here to do? I've been a restaurant manager. I've been a national sales manager. I've done all these things. I've got the house. I've got the picket fence. I got the dog. I got the kids. I got the wife, but it's not enough. I didn't feel like it was what I wanted. So we were talking with these 2 friends and they looked at each other and said, we're having the same conversation. And I said, oh, so at that point in time, I had no idea about meditation or spirituality or any of the thought leaders that were out there. But I thought, I need to start investigate this stuff. And so the 4 of us got together and we started to investigate things like spirituality and stuff. And this friend of mine said, okay, this is what I want you to do. And I highly recommend everybody do this. He said, go to a metaphysical bookstore, okay, and walk up and down the aisle. And whatever book speaks to you, and I said,
right?
I'm not on medication or anything, so I don't know what you mean by speaks to me. And he said, what resonates with you, pick it up and buy it. Turned out to be a book called Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton. And it's about our life between lives and our past life and all of that. And it really resonated with me. And so that led me down to the path of Neil Donald Walsh and conversations with God and the statement he makes in there that we are all one. And it was like, I never heard that in the Christian church, in the Lutheran church that I went to. It's a conservative one. And but I never heard that we are all one and we are all together and we're all vested in each other's wellness and stuff. So we started going down this and we started learning more about, like listen to Wayne Dyer and some other really good thought leaders. And one day he came to me and he said, we need to do a television show. We need to get this onto TV to talk about all this stuff because everybody's interested in it. Everybody at one point during time has those questions. Why are we here? What am I here to do?
This was Wayne Dyer or your friend?
This is my friend.
Okay, just making clear.
He is. So we I looked into it, and we really couldn't do television. Well, you being a veteran know how difficult it is to get on TV if you don't have like a oodles full of money, which we didn't.
My parents
And
aren't famous.
yeah, so I said, but we can do radio. So we could buy some block time on a radio station. And so we did that under the heading of something called Spirit Talk, because we had a psychic medium and we had stuff. We didn't know anything, but we were learning, and we wanted to help people understand a little bit more about how life worked and that sort of thing. So we did that. And through the course of time, I don't know if this happened in your life, but in my life, everything happens for a reason. And it's just like everything lined up chapter and verse all the way through until now. And so I started doing, my friend, as will often happen, fell away. And so, but I still wanted to do the radio. So I started doing 2 hours a day, 5 days a week on KKNW, 1150 AM in Seattle, and did that for 11 months until I ran out of money. And, they came to me and said, "You owe us $10,000." And I said, "Well, that's too bad. I don't have $10,000." And so I had to finish that show. But there was one call when I announced the show was going off the air, and I share this a lot because it means so much to me. The phone lines filled up, and people were talking about what the show meant to them and how uplifting it was, and the guests that we had on, and the nutrition information and the health stuff. But one call stood out for me, and that was a gal. She said her name was Carol from Bainbridge Island, and she said, "We listen to your show every day." And I said, "Well, thank you. That's awfully nice." And she said, "No, you don't understand. I'm an Alzheimer's caregiver, and you reach her with your show, with your laugh, the way you are." And it dawned on me that it's like we all have an impact, and we can have a positive impact on people we'll never meet. I never met her. This was 2003. I'm sure she's passed on now, but it meant so much to me. And so that led me on the journey that led me to today.
Amazing. Oh, that's just beautiful too.
And I love, Kevin, how you transformed your question into the journey, and then you made that journey into something so positive. Because one thing we share on the show every week is our mission statement, which it parallels yours for your radio show. And our mission statement for the show is to reflect the light of every viewer so you can live your dreams more fully and trust your own spiritual path more profoundly. And you clearly are doing that through your show. And then I'm so encouraged and inspired by what you're doing. And I love that you got that feedback, because to me, one little bit of feedback like that can give me stamina and momentum to keep going, even in the face of, oh, I owe $10,000. I can't do this anymore. When I have those two messages, the spiritual positive one always trumps all the worldly ones, and it leads me to keep going. Did that do that for you too?
Oh yeah. Now at the beginning you were talking about not everything is puppy dog tails and gravy and roses, and I went through, right after the radio show ended, I went through what I call my bad country music song period. which was, my dad passed away, my dog died, my wife left, I lost my house, had to declare bankruptcy, I got sued for $50,000. This is all within a 3-year period. Sued for $50,000. I hit a bridge with a U-Haul. A little embarrassed about that, but so it wasn't, and all my friends left because I had changed. I was no longer the one that was the district sales manager. I now was a talk show host of a positive, spiritually minded show. And so all that happened, but that's okay. It was just an experience, and I got through it. And then my good friend that I started the radio show in 2003, her partner was a supervisor at King County Metro, the bus company in Seattle. And she helped me get a job with King County Metro. And so I drove a bus for 12 years. And then technology caught up, and now here we are. But it was all, in my mind, predetermined by what I like to call my team. I've got a group of folks on the other side, and Ann and I have talked about this before, then they help me navigate the issues of life so that I can continue on the path that is my, in my humble opinion, my destiny.
This is so beautiful. And this reminds me a little bit, Roger, of our talk with Mary Kress a few weeks ago, who was a special guest, who's a spiritual healer and medium, and working with the support from the other side. And that's where her spiritual journey took her. And I love what you said, Kevin, about, you grew up in a Lutheran church. I'm sure there were some absolutely amazing people there. But in the particular one you didn't really hear, and because I relate to that, because I have some dear Lutheran friends, and they're beautiful people. But I can relate to, it really does depend on the environment and the church. And sometimes when we talk about, well, we are all one, but that means the people under this roof or the people within this belief system, not we are all one as humans in the world, as all being children of God, or the divine, or whatever that is for you. Like, that is a different, bigger conversation that sometimes makes people uncomfortable. And it reminds me, though, too, of your quote, which I think Roger has for us.
Yes. And this quote is from Kevin McDonald, and he shares it at the end of every one of his shows. And it is, be kind to one another, because each other is all we've got. I love that. How did that come to you, Kevin?
I am a fan of movies.
Ooh.
And there was and whether you like him or hate him, a Mel Gibson film. It was called We Are Soldiers, and he had a speech before they went into battle in Vietnam, and he said, when we get out there, it's just going to be us. It's not going to be anybody else. We're not going to be divided into black people and white people and atheist people and Catholic people. We're all going to be the same, because we're all going to be working together. And when we get out there, it's just us. And so I took that, plagiarized. I didn't plagiarize it really, but the idea is to be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got, because that's really is true. That's in my frame of mind, that's everything, is we've got each other. So let's be kind.
I love that. And I think it's unique based upon other guests we've had on. Your spiritual journey started with other people. You had that Thanksgiving dinner. You went to another Thanksgiving dinner. You found a common curiosity about what wasn't being fulfilled. And rather than everybody going out on his or her own to do their own spiritual exploration, you decided as a small group, we're going to explore together and come up with ideas. And that's how, as I understood what you said, that's how someone suggested you go to the bookstore and find something that resonates with you. I love that, because I know I can speak for myself, and I know many other people, when they start exploring other tangents or tenets in philosophy or spirituality, they usually do it in secret because they expect to be judged. It's like, well, I can't tell anybody I'm on this journey. But you were bold. You and some friends did it together. How was that experience?
Well, let's just say that I never did change my mom's mind, never did change my brother's mind, but I felt compelled. Have you ever done something that you just felt like it was right? And it was something that after every show that I've ever done, I feel uplifted. I feel energized because of the energy that people bring to it, the positivity that we exchange. And I couldn't, it's kind of like a illegal substance. It was kind of like my, I don't know, crack or something, but because I felt really called to do it. And as it turns out, I don't suck at it terribly. So it's,
well, and that's a nice thing about a gift. When you present something as a gift, you don't stare at the person expectantly, waiting for a response, waiting for a reaction. If you're just giving from what you feel is your purpose, your destiny, as you mentioned, then if it lands on certain ears and resonates well with them, beautiful. If it doesn't, equally beautiful. It's not meant for them, or at least not for them at this time. So the fact that you're just on the airwaves, sharing the positivity, offering it as a gift to anybody who wants it, I think that makes it so much more inviting than the perspective that I have the answer, follow me, which to me has never worked.
Can I tell you a quick story about that?
Yeah.
When I first started going down this road, going down this path, this journey, I was taken with a lot of new thought leaders, people who wanted people to follow them, wanted to be the leader, wanted to stand up in front of the room and have people kind of bow to them and stuff. What I discovered was there ain't no such critter. Sorry for my English, but there isn't such a thing, because we are all equal and we are all one, and we need to fulfill our own mission in life, whatever that is, and to do it in a positive, happy way, and not to the the year of the guru is dead, as far as I'm concerned. It's each of us, and all of us have the ability to do anything we choose to do.
That's so true. And I love what you're saying, because what that says to me personally is you don't have to have a religious leader to have a spiritual experience. If you do, you can also have a strong spiritual experience. And I would hope that within that context, you constantly are learning and growing. But for anyone who's been in an experience where there was disillusionment when they were in, an organization or following a particular religious leader that deviated from them, even in our last show, and our guest was talking about a spiritual leader who back in the day was pro-apartheid. And it just was so hard for someone to comprehend, like, how can you be that way? So when you're disillusioned, I think the answer is to always just keep growing. It's not being stagnant is not what we were ever designed to do. We are physically different today than we were yesterday. We are emotionally different. Our bodies regenerate every cell, like every 7 years. We're never the same from moment to moment, because in every moment we've experienced the previous moment, which has changed us and made us something new. So the idea that one set of thinking, whether you're religious or not religious, even if you are a member of a healthy religious organization and family, keeping yourself growing, thriving, exercising as an individual is still key to maintaining that personal spiritual experience and staying tied to all of God's children on the planet, as opposed to just one way of thinking.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. That's why when I read in Conversations with God that Neil Donald Walsh, and I've interviewed him several times. I've been fortunate enough in my career, because it started way back in 2003, that I've got to talk to John Edward, the psychic medium, Neil Donald Walsh, Gary Zukav, John Holland, the psychic, even Greg Braden, the guy who does quantum physics. And so I've got to talk to a lot of people, and everybody comes up with this. It is amazing. When the first time you and I talked, Ann,
Mm-hmm.
we had the same philosophy, and we had never met. We did not read the same books. We didn't. It is inherent in us that we all want to be together. We want to be that we are all one, that we are all a family. And people deep down know that. They may be frightened by it, but that's another conversation.
So in that line of things, so now we'll take this up a notch. So when you were talking earlier about, so we are one, and you were talking about your team on the other side. And I know you and I have also had conversations about NDEs. If people don't know what that is, that's near-death experiences. What does the other side, how is that meaningful for you in your everyday life?
Well, a couple things. First of all, 2 years ago, my brother passed away with stage 4 lung cancer. Last year, my mom died, just died suddenly. She was 90. But I don't feel grief for them. I know where they are. I know how happy they are. I know that what they've gotten to transition into is not some great, for me, and this is just me, it's not some great unknown. It is real. It is there. Most of the NDEs will say the same thing. They get to the other side, and all there is love. And they appreciate the fact that all there is love, and they don't have to. They're not being judged harshly by what they did or whatever. Not to say that you shouldn't always try to do the best you can, but and so for me, it's for me, it's not a theory. It's not a, well, nice to believe that. For me, it's an absolute fact. We go to the other side and we are welcomed home. That's what I call home.
And this was such a important personal experience for me on my spiritual journey. And when I started finding that the prototype of religion and spirituality that I had grown up with was no longer fitting, not because I didn't want it to, but because it was crossing the lines and violating other areas of my conscience where I didn't feel that people should be treated a certain way. And I said, this just is wrong. Then I felt that really scared for a while because I felt outside of, what do you want to call it, the faith, and what happens to me if I die. I got really dark and very frightened for a while. And then I was fortunate enough, I don't even know how, I stumbled across one of the websites for NDEs, near-death experiences. And there's a whole organization. I don't have the URL handy, but if you Google near-death experiences .org, there's a whole research organization dedicated specifically to this conversation. And they have on their website, they host thousands of vetted first-person stories of people's near-death experiences and what those experiences were. And, you know, while some of them are different, so many are similar, just like you said, Kevin. People who said, I will never be afraid of dying again now, when they've, you know, come back, they stop breathing for 20 minutes or, you know, some other incredible thing. I'll never be afraid of dying again. The hardest part was honestly coming back. I kept begging them, don't make me go back. And they're like, your work's not done. You have other people to help and heal. And so they came back, but they're like, I have set free by that experience. And one of these days, Kevin and Roger, and you guys, maybe you can help me here. I really want to get a firsthand NDE person on to share their experience, because I think helping us to just, again, for all of the viewers and listeners, this is about not preaching a creed to you. It's about sharing the experiences of other human beings and where they have found joy and peace and relief and safety in their spiritual journey. So hearing those positive stories are often really encouraging to me. And I'm sure they were to you, Kevin, especially when you first started diving into the metaphysical.
Remember when I told you about this book that I picked up that spoke to me? It was called Journey of Souls. And basically, Dr. Michael Newton is a hypnotherapist. And he was a practical, agnostic hypnotherapist who just helped people with, you know, quitting smoking and that kind of thing. Well, one day he actually took somebody deeper, and they had a NDE, or they had a life before life experience. And so he started dabbling in that and finding more and more people that had those experiences. And then he, by accident, took them even deeper. And so that they could experience what happened when they died, where they went on the other side, why they were on the other side, what were the things that they learned on the other side in preparation for coming back to this life, which is really the foundation. And he did thousands of these. There's the Newton Institute is famous for having a bunch of hypnotherapists around the world, and they experience this on an ongoing basis. So from a lot of different sources, a lot of different people. And so for me, that kind of sealed the deal that it was important, and that we needed that, by the way, every NDE that I've looked at, or most of them, you're right, there are a few, but for most of them, they all have the same components as he wrote about people doing past life regression. So It's all connected. It's all connected.
And this is so interesting to me. And, you know, we won't go full tilt into past life regression today, but for anyone out there who wants to expand their thinking, I know one of the newer philosophical spiritual movements around this is, which actually makes more sense to me, since we know scientifically that time is not linear the way we tend to view it as human bodies, right? But it's more about parallel lives. So if you talk about past life regression, for people who practice this, and I have not done it, but it's more taking a peek into your higher self, your spirit self, your physical self, or who you are in different planes at different times. It doesn't from any way detract of who you are or who you've been, quote unquote, or who you will be, but it's just exploring yourself more deeply. And people who do that often come away with much more of a grounded sense of who they are and a clearer statement of their own purpose, which is kind of where we had the title of this show, which is I'm spiritual, but why am I here? So what is your sort of fundamental, what was your takeaway other than just, we are all one? What is your fundamental takeaway, Kevin, around why are you here?
First of all, everybody has that question at one point or another in their life. They can be 20 something, they can be 80 something. But someplace in that time frame, they're going to say, why am I really here? Is this all there is? And how can I make my life count for something? And for me, it was learning about these things. And then I had a conversation, and I highly suggest, and by the way, I'm not crazy. I don't take medication, but I highly suggest.
Nothing against the medication, but
No, but I just want people to know that I'm relatively
you're
normal.
sober today.
I'm sober. And but I had a conversation with people on the other side, and I said, all right, guys, you want me to do this. You're taking me down this road. You're going to have to help me, and you're going to have to inform me about all of these things, and you're going to have to clear the road so that I can do what you want me to do.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it. And that's how I ended up doing this, all the way to this conversation that we're having today, which I believe was preordained, by the way.
I love that, Kevin. And it winds us back to the question that I wanted to ask you earlier, because when you mentioned that you get messages from the other side, that you get guidance from the other side, I know from my own personal experience, each guide that I hear from the other side presents him or herself in a completely different way. I have to figure out how they're communicating to me to understand them. What is your experience? How do your guides, how did they answer your question? How did you get, was it a feeling? Was it a voice? Was it a sensation? Was it a vision? Was it a dream? How did you get the message and the feedback you were asking for from the other side?
I get signs. For instance, have you ever looked at the hands of the clock, and for whatever reason, at any given time, it says 1111 or 4 ones, and it's like, because who I am, I've got like 4 clocks in my house. All of them say different times. So I can be in my computer and it'll say 1111. I can walk in the other room to where my range is, and 4 minutes later, and it'll say 1111. And oftentimes it's after a question. I also get it through music, through the lyrics of a song. One time, a lady came up and asked me for money. I didn't have. All I had was a $20 bill. So I said, oh, well, here you go. And she was so thankful. She said, now we can get cheese for our grilled cheese sandwiches. And so I get in my car, turn on the car, and playing on the radio was a song called Give a Little Bit. I forget the name of the band, but it was Give a Little Bit. For me, that was a sign that was, I had done something the way that they wanted me to do it.
Yeah. So how, for those people who are viewing now and don't really have much experience with this, how do you distinguish between what feels like a sign to you and what could just be coincidence?
Well, first of all, there are no coincidences.
Okay.
There are none of those. And, but more so, it's along the lines of it makes you feel good because you just said it right there. If it makes you feel good, if it makes you feel positive, if it makes you feel like this is something, regardless of what you're thinking about, if you're thinking that this is something, I'm getting on my soapbox. If you're thinking about something that this is really something that you want to do or that you could be doing for yourself or those around you, it makes you feel good, makes you feel powerful. And so that's how I know that it's because the other side, the other guy who's on the other shoulders, oh, you can't do that. You need to make money, and you when you retire, maybe you can do, that guy I have effectively turned down so that because I've had enough evidence now in my life that I can prove it, at least to myself. Don't have to prove it to anybody else. It doesn't matter. But to
So
me, I can prove it.
do you have specific practices that you engage in regularly to keep you tuned in?
Well, I believe it or not, doing the radio show, as often as I do the radio show, that this is uplifting to me. It makes me talking with people like you, who are so gifted in your own right, that it just uplifts me, and it makes me feel like I'm contributing, and it makes me feel good. And so I occasionally I meditate. I'm not nearly as good as I should be at a lot of those things because I'm busy, but at the same time, I feel like my connection to the divine is really is rock solid. And
And
I
this
can't
is
even go
beautiful.
ahead.
Yeah, sorry, because I love what you just said though. Like, like I don't always meditate, I always don't, necessarily in the way that people think. But this is again, this is part of what makes this show that we're on right now today special, I think, which is finding what works. Not one size fits all, not one diet fits all, right? It's we're each unique and individual. So just because the biggest I think the biggest danger to everyone's spiritual experience, now, I'm not saying go do bad things, is guilt. Whether it's, oh, I should have meditated today, or I should have gone to my place of worship today this week, but I didn't. Or, you know, we have so downgraded the trust in our feelings, which is a divinely given sensation, a divinely given gift that we've received as human beings to know what feels right and what's wrong. That's why when you're in a quote unquote religious environment and you feel something negative that really makes you feel kind of sick, you can trust that it's correct. Or when you're in an environment that would be considered maybe, not optimal, but you feel I need to give the $20, I need to say the right thing, I need to make a choice that's not popular. To me, that is the divine speaking to us. And I was taught to not ever listen to my feelings. And I'm completely overhauling in my own spiritual experience right now, learning that actually it's, the higher consciousness, the divine higher self, the way it communicates most directly is, sometimes we hear, we see signs, is our feelings. That is our radar. That is the instinct at the deepest level of who we are. So if you have good intentions, if you have a pure heart and good intentions, you can really rely on your gut reactions to things. I think that is priceless. So, wow, I have never seen 40 minutes go faster. So let's share our final comments and then we'll just have to have Kevin back.
Don't make me go. Don't make me go. I'm having too much fun.
No, it's been truly, truly wonderful having you again here, Kevin. And Roger, any final thoughts?
I just want to applaud you for what you're doing. And I love that you are such a pure example of just taking inspiration to action and moving into that space based solely on what I've learned about you during this conversation. It feels to me like you just followed your guidance. It's led you where you are. It's given you some huge challenges that all came together all at once, and you rebuilt from there, which to me is the process of growth. And you modeled that so beautifully. So I want to applaud you and thank you for all that you've shared with us today. I feel more inspired just having talked to you.
Well, I really, really appreciate you guys. And it is, there's not enough of this yet. It's coming, I
Mm-hmm.
believe.
Absolutely.
I think that over the course of the next few years, that this will become a lot more mainstream and normal, and what you guys are doing, what I'm doing with our shows, it's going to help. And I just
Absolutely.
applaud the both of you. And Roger, it's great to meet you. It's just I know we got to go, but just a real quick story. I had John Edward on one time, and my sister was having a reading by John Edward, and John Edward said, the letter R means something to you. You have people who the letter R means, and she said, well, my brother's name is Randy, and she forgot that her husband's name was Roger.
That's pretty funny. Like, yeah, let's skip past the obvious. That's hilarious. Oh, so fun. Well, it's been just lovely. Thank you both today. And thank you to all our viewers and listeners. Everybody, please help us out. Please please subscribe to the show so we can keep this coming to you. And please send your thoughts, comments, questions through our website, which is imspiritualbut.com. And you can also look in the notes on this show again and see Kevin's URLs. Listen to his show on Seattle AM 1150. If you can't find something better to listen to than this show, it's Positive Talk Radio. So
and
pick
Kevin,
one or the other.
And Kevin, if you would like to sign us off with your famous quotation,
that
would be a great way to end the show.
You know, that the divine had you say that, because I was going to ask. And just remember, everybody, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. We'll see you next time.